Heidi Giokos, my colleague. Let's come to you first because you've been on the scene since, of course, we heard of this explosion. What's the very latest now from where you stand, Heidi?
Yes, Tumelo, we are currently on Breeze Street, literally just a couple of meters away from where the incident actually happened, or where part of the incident actually happened. We have been strictly told by police to go absolutely nowhere near the area. I'm going to ask my colleague Joburg to just pan and actually show you the area here. As I've mentioned before, even with our colleague Gareth Edwards, that now that it's daylight, we can actually see the full extent of what is actually going on here. It's just a pity that we can't go further in. We've obviously been told for safety reasons that we should not move further in. But you can just see these visuals. I keep saying this every time I cross live, that it is something out of a movie. You just cannot believe what happened here, because this road has completely caved in. You can believe eyewitnesses that have told us, saying that while they were in a taxi, the taxi literally flung up into the air and then dropped down. Some taxis literally landed on their heads or on the side because of this so-called explosion that's happened underneath. We did see Goli gas on site a few minutes ago. They did indicate to us, or rather they have indicated through the Premier, that they are assessing what possibly could have happened here. Initially they sent out a statement to say it's got nothing to do with them, but then they realized there was a small gas leak. They are of course trying to assess what exactly is going on here. But the damage is extensive. People are being urged to stay as far away from this area as possible. We tried to move in just to get some close-up visuals, and we were told to stay away from this area. People have been urged to move away, and I think after we had spoken to the police commissioner, the provincial police commissioner General Elias Mawela, to tell him that the police are being outnumbered. People are still walking in and out of this area. There was obviously some kind of overhaul here and control being brought in to avoid any kind of movement. But some people are literally begging the police and saying, I have to get through here because I either stay here or I work here or whatever. But you can see businesses are closed. There was a roadside barber just a couple of meters away walking up to here, and I asked them, what's the situation like? And they said there's absolutely no business because nobody wants to come near here. So as much as the situation has been brought under control, we are none the wiser, Tumelo, as to what could have possibly caused this damage. I mean, this is extensive and it's very serious.
Heidi, we're also looking at those visuals and definitely seeing, of course, the severity of that collapsed road there, and can only imagine what, motorists and passengers and cars, residents actually felt when that explosion actually erupted in that moment. We've been reading reports and hearing eyewitnesses talking about how that road literally lifted cars and had them, of course, just turning over to the sideways. But again, the point that you were making around the appeal for people not to make use of that road, Heidi, just speaking to Isaac Magena just a few minutes ago, saying that, he could still smell the gas, in that particular road, saying that there could be secondary danger, hence that appeal to residents, of course, to not make use of that road. But also, as you also reiterated earlier, Heidi, earlier on, Gauteng Police Commissioner Elias Mawela said that the Boksburg explosion had more, injuries because of curiosity. People were looking in to see what was happening, and in the process, they were then, of course, injured, and some unfortunately lost their lives. But at this stage, Heidi, I'm assuming that 1 o'clock is still the expected briefing time in terms of any developments as to, what all stakeholders have gathered in terms of their research, their data surrounding this explosion.
Yes, we are expecting an update at 1 o'clock. I'm just trying to understand how there are other media that are allowed to be inside, but we aren't allowed to go inside. So I'm trying to ask this police officer, there seems to be media moving in there. So can we also go in and take visuals? Because there's media right there with cameras. Sorry, Tumelo, I'm just trying to understand. This is the problem I have, because there seems to be conflicting reports about, or instructions about who can move into this area and who cannot. So if people are allowed to move in, then we should also be allowed to move in to get these visuals. But now we're being instructed to go and speak to another police officer. But yes, at 1 o'clock we are with a further updates, and hopefully we'll get clearer indications as to what exactly could have possibly caused this, because at the end of the day, we need to get to the bottom of what's happening. You know, issues around gas have been thrown around, a gas leak, and also the possibility of illegal mining that could have damaged the infrastructure at the bottom, which obviously really created an unstable underground, if I can call it that. So it is very concerning about why they have not been able to ascertain what's going on. There's a lot of movement happening at this particular point. It seems as though assessors are trying to figure out what's going on, because they have to report back to the Premier almost hourly as to what exactly is going on. So they are moving in, they are trying to figure out what's going on here. I did speak to one official off camera, and he did say to me that they've also seen extensive damage to a sewer pipe, and as I mentioned to you before, Tumelo, that I had no idea that there was gas related to sewer pipes, but apparently there is, and that can sometimes also cause some sort of explosion. But for now, 1 o'clock, we understand that there will be a briefing. We know one person has tragically lost their lives, and 48 others were attended to medically, with 12 people still in hospital.
Yeah, and just Heidi, before I let you go, I mean, let's also perhaps talk about the residents and businesses affected there. You mentioned earlier on that, part of the reason why people were still walking past is because there are apartment buildings in that area, on that street. There are also businesses. But now with this damage, obviously there's a knock-on effect on operations in those businesses, but also residents having free movement going in and out of their apartment buildings. All right, Heidi Giokos, our reporter. Seemingly we've lost connection there with Heidi, trying to just establish for us what the knock-on effect is like for residents there. You could see from a distance even some people looking in and looking on as law enforcement and some of the officials doing their work, trying to understand and further investigate those roads and the concrete there to look through as to what the possibilities look like. We're talking here the likes of EMS being present, JMPD are present. The City Power is also present there, the Premier's office, as well as the City of Johannesburg. All stakeholders key to the City of Johannesburg, trying to ascertain what the possibilities look like.